So today we want to determine the sine of any given trig function. And we're going to use a couple of things to help us out. The first thing we're going to use is a little mnemonic. All students take calculus. Now, from class, remember, we have 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, and Quadrant 4. And those quadrants go counterclockwise. And we always start at 0 degrees. Then we have 90, 180, 270, and back to the beginning, 360. And the mnemonic, all students take calculus, go quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. All students take calculus. Now what this means, all students take calculus. All means all the functions are positive in quadrant 1. Students, S, means sine is positive in quadrant 2. All students take, that means tangent is positive in quadrant 3. All students take calculus, obviously means what? Cosine is positive in quadrant 4. Okay, so if we know this, we can very, very easily determine the sine of each of these angles. So let's start with the first one, the tangent of 320 degrees. Well, 320 is between 270 and 360, which means this function is in quadrant 4. Okay, if the function's in quadrant 4, where is tangent positive? It's positive in quadrants 1 and 3. If it's positive in 1 and 3, means it's negative in 2 and 4. So what's the sine of this function? It is negative. Cosine of 154 degrees. Okay, well, where is 154 degrees? Well, this is 180. And this is 90. So that means 154 degrees is in quadrant 2. What is positive in quadrant 2? Sine is positive in quadrant 2. What does that mean about tangent and cosine? It means tangent and cosine are both negative. So cosine of 154 degrees should be negative. And you can check each of these with your calculator. Okay? So if your calculator, we're just going to pull up our handy dandy TI-83. If your calculator is in degree mode, you can take the cosine of 154 degrees. And what do you get? Negative 0.99808. You get a negative number. So you can check these with your calculator. Okay? Cosecant of 244 degrees. Well, this little drawing doesn't address cosecant. But what you have to remember is it does address the 3 standard trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent. How is cosecant related to sine, cosine, and tangent? Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So wherever sine is positive, cosecant will also be positive. Sine is positive in quadrants 1 and 2. Negative in 3 and 4. Where is 244 degrees? It's in quadrant 3. Sine is negative, and since sine is negative, cosecant is also negative. Let's look at this next one. Sine of 891. Well, that's not in our 360 degree range. It's a coterminal angle. So what I like to do, if I were doing this by hand, is subtract. What is 891 minus 360? And I get 531. Still not in a 360 degree range. So we subtract 360 again. And this time I get 171 degrees. So sine of 891 is the same thing as asking the sine of 171. Where is 171 degrees? It's less than 180, so it's in quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, sine is positive. Now this all becomes important later on because we're going to be adding vectors. And when we add vectors and we work with trig functions of any angle, we need to know very quickly, is it positive or negative? So I strongly encourage you to memorize the statement, all students take calculus. The last one, tangent of negative 480. This is a negative angle. So if we want to find a coterminal angle for a negative angle, instead of subtracting 360, we add 360. So I'm going to say negative 480 plus 360, and I come up with negative 120. It's still a negative angle. I don't like that. So I add 360 again, and I get 240 degrees. So this is the same thing as asking what is the tangent of 240 degrees. Well, where is 240 degrees? It's between 180 and 270 in quadrant 3. In quadrant 3, tangent is positive. So tangent of 240 should be positive. This is how we find the sine of any angle, the trig function of any angle. What is the sine, negative or positive? And this comes in very handy later when we get to vectors. If you have any questions, please come see me.